Good evening, our dear viewers out there. Now tonight, I bring you a lady who's working and lived in America, but chose to do something that she's so passionate about in Kamuli district. How amazing that is. Now, my guest is the co-founder of Imaging the World, and she's called Dr. Kristen Distincta. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you for having me.
Who is Dr. Kristen?
Well, I am a radiologist by training. I'm a professor at the University of Vermont in the state of Vermont in the United States. And I have been working with Imaging the World for the last 6 years in Uganda.
And Imaging the World, and you're working in America at the same time. How do you correlate the two?
It's difficult. I'm the interim chair of the radiology department at the University of Vermont, which means that I have responsibility and accountability for my entire department of radiology. I have been, up until recently, the program director of the training of residents at my university. I sit on a number of national committees and boards related to radiology in the United States. But it seems that everything that I do related to education and to global health really fits together so well that I'm able to do everything and really find time to do it. And
growing up, did you dream of working or traveling to Africa?
I actually did. I did. I had a best friend when I was growing up, and we would go to the library and we would pull out books on Africa and we would choose places that we wanted to go. And when I was in college, I had an opportunity to spend a interim semester in Liberia. And it was my second year of college. And I decided to do it, and I went, and it was an amazing experience, and I knew that I wanted to come back.
Now, away from that, why did you focus more on radiology?
Well, I was actually, during high school and college, and then during medical school, I was working on a research project. And the research project was in parasites, so worms. And the particular worm that we were working on was called schistosomiasis.
Which means?
Well, it's an infection that's caused by actually one of the vectors of the infection, or the causes of the infection, is the snail. And it's a disease that you have here in Uganda, by the way. But as part of the program, we were testing the drug of choice for that disease. And the testing was occurring in Kenya. And so as part of my, my responsibility on this research team, I first started out collecting urine and examining patients and doing all of this sort of thing. But to measure the manifestations or the results of the disease, we needed to use ultrasound scans. And I worked with a Kenyan radiologist who really convinced me that radiology was the career for me. I had, during medical school, originally thought I was going to go into infectious disease, and then I really changed my mind into surgery. And I was sure I was going to be a surgeon until I went to Kenya and worked with that radiologist and saw what the power of ultrasound scanning was in the field, and really felt like even then that I could make a difference.
And then you chose?
And then I chose, and it was very late in the process of applying, but I was able to apply to several schools and got a few interviews, and I got in that year. So it was destiny.
Now that you say it's destiny, when you look back, do you think you made the right decision?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I would not go back.
Now, what are your highlights of your African experience? Of course, that you have the passion in Kamuli district, your career, and of course, your personal life.
Wow, the highlights of all of that.
Yeah.
I would say the highlight of my personal life is, number one, the fact that I've been able to have and raise 4 children who are amazing human beings who have grown up to be, you know, responsible and joyful and grateful, and that I've also been able to accomplish a lot in my career, and I've been very proud of that. I'm proud of the relationships and the collaborations I've been able to make here in Uganda to be able to better affect good results in Uganda. And the highlights of my career, I think probably as a result of my work in Uganda, I recently received the Global Humanitarian Award from the American College of Radiology Foundation. And then in the same year, just recently, I received the Educator of the Year Award from the Radiological Society of North America. So really a couple of the biggest awards that a person could get in the field of radiology in the United States have come my way, and I'm really not entirely sure why I'm deserving, but I feel very proud of that.
And that was going to be my next question. How do you feel that you are being recognized? And certainly you're going to be recognized further, especially that you're focusing more on local communities in Africa. How do you feel deep down in your mind?
I feel really surprised, but I feel also just so humbled to be recognized for doing something that I love and something that for which I get so many personal returns. I feel honored because the awards have been given by people who were my mentors. So people that brought me along in my career are now recognizing me for what I've done. And I feel motivated. I feel motivated to do more, to try to help people lead more healthy, productive lives.
And earlier you were mentioning to me that you have a full-time job at the University of Vermont. And certainly you have some contribution, immense contribution I should say, to the district of Kamuli and other local districts in Uganda. How are you able to really prioritize your time to ensure that both need you are actually getting your services?
Well, fortunately I have an amazing team of co-workers here in Vermont. We have an office in Nalya, and the team here of Ugandans that runs the program locally is quite amazing. But relative to my time, one of the fortunate aspects of living in the United States is that I'm 7 hours behind Uganda. And so my local team will tell you that every single morning I call Uganda. And it's usually around 6 o'clock my time, midday this time, and we have a conversation about what has to happen, what are the challenges that we're facing, what are what is the strategic plan, and how are we meeting that, and then I travel here 4 or 5 times a year, and that's how I do it. And it's enough because the project is really locally sustainable here in Uganda now.
And you are an expert in this field now, and definitely what you're finding at the grassroots is completely different from what is in America. So what is your prescription to the underfunded health sector in Africa, but more precisely Uganda?
What I find is that the majority of patients who are vulnerable live in the rural areas, yet the majority of the providers who could take care of them live in the urban centers like Kampala. And that gap creates a huge problem. We see some of that in the United States, but not quite as much.
Dr. Kristen, hold on a little bit. And then when we come back from that commercial break, we shall continue with that conversation. Welcome from that commercial break, and thank you for staying tuned to 30 Minutes with Edmond Safari. Now, earlier, before we went for that break, I was talking to Dr. Kristen about her career in Africa. And of course, I was still asking her about her prescription to the underfunded health sector in Africa. And of course, Uganda in precise. And what was that you were saying earlier on?
Sure. Well, what I've noticed that's different from the United States is that there's a huge gap in care between the rural areas and the urban areas. Now that exists a little bit in the United States, but not to the degree that I notice here in Uganda. So where we see most of the people living in the rural areas, the providers that should be taking care of them tend to be living and working in the urban centers. And speaking from my career in radiology and my expertise there, I noticed that gap very strongly, because really imaging is not widely available anywhere outside of the urban areas, with the exception of a few scattered ultrasound imaging centers here and there. Now, just to put this in perspective, in my department of radiology at the University of Vermont, I have 40 radiologists.
What, in America?
In America.
Yes.
In the country of Uganda, there are just a few more than that to serve the whole country.
The whole country. That's how bad it is.
So there's quite a big gap in the skilled expertise of radiologists, and so when we talk about the health sector and how do we accomplish making imaging accessible to the vast majority of the people in this country, we have to think about task shifting. And how can we train nurses, for example, to do ultrasound scanning at the point of care at the rural health facilities, so that we can create a healthier population overall in the country.
Now, you have won the Global Humanitarian Award, and of course other more awards. How do you assess the role of humanitarian efforts in delivering healthcare in Uganda and of course Africa at large?
I think that the role of humanitarian efforts in the health sector is really to try to jumpstart with best practice. I fully believe that the role of the humanitarian is to create sustainable practices and to leave sustainable practices where you've been. And that's been my goal working in Uganda with Imaging the World, is to come in to bring an idea. And maybe it's something that people were thinking about, but they just needed a little bit of a jump start, or a little push, maybe a little bit of best practice on sharing ideas, just to get it going. And what I've seen in Uganda is that's absolutely happened. It didn't take me long. I came in 2010, and by the next year, we had fully sustainable health centers going with ultrasound integrated at the point of care into especially antenatal care.
Like you said, you come to Uganda in 2010. And certainly you go to Kamuli district. I don't know why. I'll ask you that later. But in our society, usually we look at ladies with a different perception. Did you encounter any sort of perception in Kamuli?
I really didn't. encounter that. I think that when we were at the facilities where we were working, we might have had more people coming out of curiosity, but the people were genuine and friendly, and I didn't feel uncomfortable, and I didn't detect any difference.
What will it take for the results achieved, say, in Kamuli to be replicated all over Uganda and hopefully all over our continent?
I think at this point, there's no reason that what we've done at our pilot site in Kamuli district couldn't be replicated throughout Uganda and anywhere in the world. What's needed now is advocacy, really, is advocacy, so that people understand that ultrasound is an integral part of good antenatal care. And to make that available, as we've already discussed, to the majority of the vulnerable people in this country, we need to think outside the box and to come out with ways to make human resources available at those lower level facilities where the people live, so that the KTV can be found close to home. And that really is the key to all of this, to making sure that we're supported to bring ultrasound services to the Health Center 3 level.
What do your family members, your friends, your family say about your service to Uganda?
My family's very proud of my service, and in fact, every year, once a year, my children come with me, and then they're here with me on this trip, in fact. My sister's been here. I've had some nieces that have come, and so I think they're not just proud, but they're really interested in, and they want to get involved. And certainly, it's almost something that's contagious. My friends want to know more, and so they come, and then they become involved in different projects to help.
Any lessons from your family that have shaped your career?
Well, I think that I grew up as the oldest of 6 children, and I probably learned a lot during that time that I don't even, never even really thought about and realized, maybe with respect to efficiency and management, and maybe even some lessons in leadership that came from being the oldest child and living that life. My parents were very dedicated, humble people, and they always gave more than they took, and I think I learned so much from them.
And any lessons you have learned or shaped that have shaped you because of the community that you're serving?
Oh, so many lessons.
Like?
So many lessons. I think that what I've learned is to always be a learner. That I'm not necessarily a giver. That there are many lessons that can be learned through practice and practice quality improvement that shape my life and make me a better person from having had this experience.
Certainly, so many people out there maybe refer to you as a hero. After all, you have won so many numerous awards. But who is your hero?
Well, I think my hero is my mother.
Why? Because
she was a very strong woman. She had 6 children. She worked full-time as a teacher. She took extra time to give music lessons. She tutored other children who had disabilities and in learning, and yet every single night she had dinner on the table, the house was clean, and I look back and I asked the same question you asked of me. I said, how did she do that? She's really an amazing woman, and very loving, and just somebody I would want to emulate.
Thank you very much. And I hope that at one given time of your time here in Uganda, you actually make a decision to stay here forever and ever. Now, you have had Dr. Kristen tell us her personal story, where she comes from, her career in radiology, and of course her experience in the healthcare system of Uganda. And of course I have learned a lot. Compassion, passionate about the service that she wants to do. And hopefully we can get more Dr. Kristens to give us that healthcare service in Uganda. Of course, it has been a pleasure talking to you guys, and as always, I'm here to request you to follow us on Urban TV, on Twitter, everywhere. And of course, it's a lifestyle.